Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 312. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffyk on Ravelry, Fluffykira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at the cornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called the Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my hand-spun yarn and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, January 11th. And it is a Monday. I got up this morning and thought I should put on some wonderful knits, and I ended up in sweats. I am enjoying my sweatshirt from our trip to Ireland from Sean's, which is the oldest pub in Ireland. One of the walls of the pub is actually the original stone wall, and we actually stopped there and had a quick drink in our travels. So it was kind of fun. I had some Guinness. And I decided to buy a sweatshirt to commemorate the occasion, and you know, it's really funny. I was thinking about the trip the other night, and I was like, where is that sweatshirt? I haven't worn that forever. So that's the first thing I pulled out of my closet this morning. So instead of knitting, you're getting me in warm, cozy sweats. It is chilly here. It is in the 20s. This week is supposed to be anywhere between the 20s and 40s. Maybe we'll hit 50, but probably not. But it has been quite chilly, although it has been sunny. So that has been nice for my mood. I really like rainy, gray days, but if I get too many of them in a row, I do start to miss the sun. So I don't have much to share with you this week. Of course, the United States had a whole variety of events last week since we last talked, and they were upsetting, and I don't know what more I can say about that. It has been quite the week, although, like I said, we have not done much. We've still been staying home and staying out of everyone else's way and keeping ourselves healthy and not spreading anything. So lots of crafting, lots of doom scrolling, and I'm not gonna lie there, but just trying to keep going and keep a positive outlook. So that is where I will start for today with those hopes. Today I am drinking a tea I have drunk before. It is from Verdant Tea. I actually did not purchase this. A friend gifted this to me. It is called Wild by Mudan. It is a green tea. Well, technically, actually, it's a white tea from the Wu family in China. This is what the label looks like. If you are interested, you can take a look at Verdant Tea. I'm not going to try and butcher the pronunciation of all the others. It is a nice, really kind of crisp white tea. It's not, I was thinking it was green, but it's not grassy. I added just a touch of sugar, and it's just absolutely delightful. It's a good punch of caffeine for the little bit of work I still have to get through yet today. It is about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I thought I would record before I lost the last of the light. So I have some things to show you. I have some small finishes. The first is actually not a finish from this week. It's from a couple weeks ago, but between blocking and whatever else, I just did not manage to bring it back to show you. I also know that the publication of the pattern is delayed, so that was part of it. You may remember that I was knitting a slip stitch scarf with two colors of my hand spun. So I have finished it. Here it is. It is a long, narrow scarf. It is supposed to be approximately 6 inches wide. I think mine did not stretch out quite that much when I blocked it, so I might potentially have not had the perfect gauge when I was knitting it. It's got a little section of ribbing at the bottom, and then it's basically a slip stitch pattern where you change color every few rows. I used two colors of my hand spun. The blue, which is, I mean, technically it has some yellow and some purple in it, so it does actually change colors, you can see. But the more semi-solid is called Glacial, and it was a fiber that I got from Spunky Eclectic and spun up a while ago. And then the kind of rainbow portion is some of my Spinster's Crazy Bats, so it is a variety of fibers and colors. And I don't know that the camera is doing it justice. It really has kind of a rainbow of colors in here. I see purples and yellows and reds and pinks and greens. Maybe not so much for oranges, but it is actually quite colorful, and it reminds me a little bit of the Noro 2-row scarf, just in the sense that it is kind of some long color changes and they go together. So that was kind of where I started with it. I used probably about 300 yards for it. I was supposed to use 400 yards based on the pattern, so again, I don't know that I got my gauge perfectly correct. And I did have leftovers, and I was like, well, let's just knit a hat to go with it. So I did knit a hat to go with it. This one I basically made up on my own using the stitch in the pattern. So I did my 2x2 rib down at the bottom, and then I did the pattern all the way up to the top. I kind of made up my own decreases and tried to keep the pattern going, and I don't think it ended up looking too bad there. So it's a nice little set. I don't know what I'll do with it. It is not all superwash, so I don't know whether I donate it or not. I probably will at some point, but I'll donate it someplace where I can, you know, mark that it's wool and needs to be hand washed. So that is a hat and scarf set. All together, that's probably close to 400 yards, and so that was kind of a nice thing to finish off. I think the scarf was definitely like a 2020 finish, and I think I knit the hat in 2021. I think I knit it sometime last week and just kind of finished it off. So that is a finish that, well, I don't know. It may have already been done by the time I recorded last week. I cannot even remember, but I did want to sort of close that loop and bring that to show you. So hat and scarf set out of handspun. And I would totally make that pattern again. I think what I would do is I would just cast on more so that the scarf is wider. I like a really wide scarf, and because I think it does more to kind of cover you up. So, but otherwise it was a delightful pattern, and I hope maybe it will be published at some point. The schedule just got kind of messed up, and so I don't know exactly when it's going to be published. The second thing that I did this week is I knit another hat for charity, and that is because I was sitting at my desk and there was this ball of handspun that I had caked up to use for something. It's a skein of Lorna's laces, and it is in their fingering weight, so their sock weight, and it was kind of lightly speckled, and I bought it because I thought it would look really cool, but in the end it wasn't speckled enough that it really did anything for me. And so I tried to knit with it a couple times, and then I just caked it up. It was already caked, and so I just left it in there, and it was staring at me last week, and I thought, hey, I could hold that doubled with, I have this whole box of Dale Baby Uli. Well, it's a combination of Dale Baby Uli and some Sirdar, and they're all fingering weights, and they're all solids. And so I was like, hey, I could hold that with some of those solids and create a fun hat. So in the name of instant gratification, I knit a hat this week, and this is the hat. It was in, like I said, I think it's either Dale Baby Uli or Sirdar in this bright, like cheerful red, and then you can sort of see, if I hold it close up, you can see like some of the little bits of speckles in the white, but in general, most of them don't translate. It's speckled, I think, in green and blue and red. And so I have some colors. Oh, there may even be a little bit of yellow too. But I mean, it's not terribly speckled, and so it was not terribly interesting by itself. But together, I think it makes a nice hat. So I have some green, I have some blue, I have some other colors, and since each hat only takes a little more than 100 yards, I mean, I'm holding fingering weight doubled, so what I probably used was close to 250 yards in this hat, but I only used like 100 to 125 of the white. So I still have, it's a full cake of yarn, 400 yards. So I'm gonna, you know, maybe do 1 or 2 a week, and just keep myself going with a little bit of instant gratification and kind of working things out of my stash. And again, you know, I thought I was done, but then I saw that cake and was like, I gotta do more. So, you know, what makes you happy, and that's another fun hat to go in the donation pile. So that is it for finished objects this week, which I totally expected because I am working on 2 longer term projects now. So the one that you have seen is I am working on a Comfort Fade cardigan that is by Drea Renee Knits, Andrea Mowry, and I am knitting it in Zen Yarn Garden, and this one is actually for me. I knit them one as a sample a while ago, and they paid me in yarn at that point, and so I have my own fade set dyed. And I did make great progress this week. Last week when I showed you, I had a couple inches right up at the collar, and I actually got through dividing. I just divided for the sleeves and have knit maybe an inch or so since then. So I am into my second color. I am almost ready to start the fade into my third color, which is this gorgeous red over dyed with black. So that will be the next color in the sequence, and then I have black. My goal this week is to try and finish the body. That is quite a bit of knitting. The body is another probably 11 inches plus a few inches for the hem. So that is, you know, probably 12 to 14 inches of knitting. I am hoping that because it's just the body stitches, this is a DK. I am knitting on a US 5, which is one size smaller than the pattern calls for, but I have been knitting loosely as of late. So this is actually what I used when I knit the original as well to get gauge. So, which was just a couple years ago. So I decided to stick with that, and I am pleased with it so far. The hardest part to me is done. I find those rows right up at the top where you're making your raglan increases for your sleeves to get really, really long, and once you pull those sleeves off and are just going back and forth on the body, I think it goes quite quickly. So I am planning to put a lot of effort into this week, and I'm hoping to get the body done. That will leave me maybe a week to do sleeves and a week to do the collar, and my hope is to have this done by the end of the month. If it does not get done by the end of the month, no harm, no foul, but I would really like to get this done because I would really like to be able to wear it while the temperatures are still cold. And I expect we'll have cool temperatures through February and probably a chunk of March, but of course the longer I go before I complete it, the longer I don't get to wear it. So that's my plan for this one, and that's where I'm at right now. Like I said, very pleased to have gotten through kind of what I feel like the longest slog is now. I guess the shawl collar will be a lot of knitting as well, but I'm just less concerned about that. So very pleased with that. Loving these colors. So that is what's going on there. Last week I showed you the yarn that I was going to use to cast on a new shawl, and wouldn't you know it, I meant to look up the the designer's name because I knew I didn't have it last week, and I don't have it this week. The pattern is the Morthough wrap. That's Morethough, and the designer's first name I believe is Erin. I'll have to pull. It is in the show notes, and I should say a note about the show notes. I am no longer linking to Ravelry in my show notes because I know that there are some people who can't use Ravelry right now. So when I link to patterns, I will either, when I link to patterns, they will not be a Ravelry link. If I am able to, I will find the link to the pattern off Ravelry, either on Payhip, Lovecrafts, Etsy, the designer's website, wherever it is not Ravelry, and I will be using that link. And if I cannot find a link, then I will just put the name and the the name of the pattern and the designer's name, and then if you would like to go to Ravelry to purchase, you can. I will say I am making an effort to find some new designers this year, not as much in these two, but I have picked out a few things for my next couple knits, and so I will be talking about those in the coming months. I am trying to support designers who not necessarily have left Ravelry, but who make their patterns available as options to those who cannot use Ravelry. So basically I am looking for designers who are trying to be inclusive and make their patterns as accessible as possible. So, and I have no opinions about what site they are using to deliver their patterns. I just hope that they are offering their patterns somewhere else in addition to Ravelry. So the Morthough wrap is a wrap of a background color, which in the pattern itself is a neutral, and then it is made up of several different textured sections of stitches, and a large portion of it is knit in mosaic knitting, which is slip stitch knitting, which is a really easy version of two-color knitting where you're only knitting with one color at a time and you are slipping the other color to form a pattern. And in the actual pattern, the background color is a neutral and the foreground color is kind of a bright, variegated color. In our version, which, like I say our version because this is Zen Yarn Garden and their samples, I am knitting with their Luxe cakes, which are merino cashmere nylon, 750 yards. It is a super luxurious gradient cake. And it starts out as a knitting blank, which is why the yarn looks a little kinked and a little bit like ramen, and they cake them into these lovely gradient cakes. And this one is called Raspberry. It started at purple. It is now just starting to move into the pink, and we'll go through pink back to purple. So I am using these as my background color and inverting and using a natural white in the, both are in the Serenity Silk Plus base, which is a fingering weight, 500 yards to 100 grams. These skeins are actually 150 grams, 750 yards, but the plain skein is actually just a 500 yard skein to 100 grams, and this is in the natural. So now I actually have something to show you, and this is the first, I want to say, about a quarter of the wrap. And so I have my sections here. You can see that there are varying textures. There's some garter stitch down here with a little bit of eyelet, and then you've got this mosaic section, which I really, really like. And it's pretty simple to knit, and then it's got a simple kind of lace section here in the solid color. This is the gradient skein, and then I've got another section of mosaic, and I'll be working another section of lace after that. And so the wrap continues, just alternating all of these, or switching among these different pattern stitches. And it is knit on the bias, which means you are always increasing at one end and decreasing at the other end. And the pattern is clearly written and charted. It is a long pattern because it creates a long rectangular wrap. And so the pattern is 500 something rows, which is daunting. But like I said, I am probably about a quarter of the way through at this point, maybe just a smidge less. So that's not too bad. My goal is to finish this month as well, so I do need to kind of jam on this week. But I really, I worked it out, and I think if I do like about 30 rows a day, I should be done by the end of the month. So that is my goal in terms of finishing this. I mean, it is a 16 to 1700 yard shawl, so there is plenty of yarn going in here. So that's why it's taking me a little while, but I do like that, and I'm very excited to, you can kind of just start to see that the gradient is heading a little bit towards pink. Like the purple down at the bottom is a real kind of blue purple, and then it kind of moves towards, it's just starting to get there. It's hard to see on here, but by next week I should have a big pink section to show you, and I'm excited for that. I think this will be a really nice wrap for the spring. So that is the other sample that I'm working on. And again, you're going to see these projects all month. I will probably throw in a few small things as I go, just to give myself, like I said, a little instant gratification and a few other things that I need to do. But these are my two big projects for the month, and I expect them to take all month. So, sadly, you'll be seeing them many times before they are done. But hopefully I'll be making good progress each week, so there will be something new for you to see. The final cast on this week is I woke up yesterday morning and realized that it's almost Valentine's Day. And I know you're thinking it's January 11th. That is not almost Valentine's Day. In knitting speak, it is, because I always send my niece and nephew a little package for Valentine's Day. I started this when Roxy was a baby, and I've just kept it up over the years. And generally, at this point, a proper Valentine's Day package from Aunt Laura includes some chocolate, just a few pieces to share, a hand-knitted gift, which sometimes is a little stuffed something. I sent them little stuffed hearts one year, but in recent years has been socks, and then a little something, not exactly a toy, but a little something to enjoy. Last year, I think I sent them, I had been at a trade show, and I sent them little soaps with little toys inside the soap, so you use the soap up, and then you have the toy. This year, I bought them a really nice book that I'm going to send, but I realized yesterday morning that I have approximately, well, a little bit less than a month to crank out 2 pairs of socks for the kids if I want to send them off and have them actually be there for Valentine's Day. So yesterday I started on a sock for Roxy, and I got through the heel. That is the wonderful thing about children's socks. They go pretty quickly. I am using some Knit Picks Felici self-striping. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. They are sold in 50 gram skeins from Knit Picks. Like I said, Felici, it's their self-striping. It's super fun. The yarn is super, super soft. I have made a pair for myself. I will say that the yarn does pill a little bit. So if you're thinking about making socks for yourself, just keep that in mind. As for the children, they wear through them so fast, and I don't mean wear through them like wear them out. Their feet grow so fast that they don't wear them more than, you know, a couple months at a time. And luckily my sister can save them and reuse them for the second kid, if they're not too, well, I guess it doesn't matter. If the second child approves of the colorways, then they can use them twice. But the truth is that I don't think they get worn and laundered enough to actually pill when they're kids' socks. So I haven't worried about that too much. I am in the colorway, using the colorway Spring Blossoms, which I can't remember. I either bought these straight from Knit Picks, or I might have gotten these on D-Stash from a friend. I have a friend who moved away a couple years ago, and he was just selling his stash at like bargain basement prices, and he might have been the one I got these from. I have two skeins, although I will probably see if I can get both out of one skein. That may be a little bit. Each skein is 50 grams, 218 yards, so I should be able to get socks for Roxy out of one skein, which means I could potentially get ankle socks, you know, like minis for myself. So that was kind of my goal when I bought this. So I have Roxy's sock. Basically I turned the heel last night and then I didn't get through any of the gusset. So this is a 6 stripe Knitter's, like I said, Knitter's Pride Felici. I'm just trying to get this in a place where I can sort of show you. And it's just fun colors. It's teals and greens and hot pink. And I have just gotten back to the green that was just right at the edge here that you can see right at the top with the pink. So I'm on the 6th color now, and then I will work on the foot. The foot will take me a little bit longer. I decided not to make these too long because I don't know exactly how much her calves are growing. Like, I'm kind of working from I think this is approximately the size she needs, and when I sent her socks for Christmas, they fit perfectly. But of course, these are going to be 2 months later, and in child speak, that can be an eon if they have gone through a growth spurt. So I decided not to make them too long because A, they're springy colors, and I'm sending them in February, so hopefully she'll wear them in the spring. And B, like I said, I don't know exactly how big her calves and legs are getting, so I didn't want to worry about making them super tall and then having them not fit well up top. So, and it's a few inches, which I think for her size foot is probably fine. It will not be equal in length to the sock foot length, but I generally don't knit my socks quite that tall. Anyway, this is what I got through in about 2 hours yesterday, 2 to 3 hours yesterday. So I will be working on those in my spare time this week. And then I will need to come up with a pair for Miles as well. I do not have any Felici that I want to, I do not have another color of Felici, and I'm not sure whether he really wants hot pink in his socks. So I do have some other things. His favorite color is red, and I think I have a Desert Vista Dye Works skein of yarn that has a red stripe in it, and so I'm thinking I might cake that up, and I can definitely get a pair of socks for him and for myself out of it, so I was thinking I might just cake that up and knit the socks for him, and then I can knit the socks for myself later this year if I feel necessary. So these, of course, I am also trying to get done by the end of the month, although if these bleed over into the first week of February, that's fine. But those are the things that I sort of need to get done this month. So that is new socks on my needles. And these probably could count as an almost instant gratification project because, like I said, I did half a sock yesterday. So, I mean, it'll take me a little longer to do the foot because the foot is a little longer, but really, like, so 3 nights. So yeah. Okay, sip of tea, and then let's go on to spinning, and then I will be done. So I did finish spinning. I'm excited. I have not washed it yet, but I did finish spinning the braid that I showed you last week. It was Hello Yarn in a 70s merino, and the colorway was actually very muted, and I talked about how it was kind of uncharacteristic for her colors, and what I have come up with is a really squishy and very kind of muted skein. really, honestly, it is almost pastels, which is really not at all what she does. It's got kind of a mint green and a silvery blue and then a yellow and a pink, and so you get some tones of peach in there by the pink and the yellow mixing. I spun this one fractally, so I divided the braid in half vertically. I think I divided it horizontally. I divided it horizontally, which is not a true fractal, but I divided it horizontally. One half I divided into 4 or 5 little strips and spun them so it was short color repeats, and then the other half I spun straight through so it was long color repeats, and you can see that in the long sections of pink and yellow in there. I have not washed this yet, but I expect that I will get somewhere between 350 and 400 yards, and it is super squishy. My guess is it's going to be my standard kind of sport to DK weight. That's how I tend to spin, and it is not as even as I would like it, which I figured out when I plied, so I do need to give some thought and practice to spinning my singles more evenly. There are sections where it really is more like fingering weight and sections where it really is more like sport or DK weight. This one is actually, as much as I called it a muted color and said it sort of reminded me of January skies and sort of snow and pale colors, it actually would also be a really great kind of Easter and early spring. The pastels would be great for baby stuff as well, although I will say that it is not superwash, so at least I don't believe so. I'll have to look back at the label, but I do not believe this is superwash, so if you were using it for baby things, you'd want to use it for someone who knew how to care for wool. I am going to watch this and thwack it and get it all ready to go, photograph it, and it should be up in the shop later this week if this is of interest to you. Which means I had to pick a new spin to start, and I actually started this last night. We meet for my knit night group has now, in addition to Wednesdays, which was our knit night where we used to go out to dinner, we have also started meeting on Sundays. Which has been kind of wonderful in this pandemic. Normally we wouldn't have done that because we all had active lives and some of us had children and, we were busy doing other things, and so we would spend the weekends with our spouses. But since we spend every day with our spouses and families, we are meeting an extra night a week, and it has been really, really nice. So I started the spin last night. That little story was more of an attempt to allow myself some time to braid it so I could show you this. This is only 2 ounces of a 4-ounce braid, and this is something that I just purchased recently, as in, I think I purchased it Christmas Day or the day after Christmas, or maybe Christmas Eve. This is from Three Waters Farm. It is called Midnight Flannel, and it is an 80-20 blend of, I believe, merino and tussa silk, and it is just gorgeous. I don't think the camera will do it justice. It is blues and indigos and violets, and you get a little bit of shimmer and shine and some real, you can see that, some shimmer and shine, and that is the silk, which is not completely blended in. There are some chunks of it which really take the dye differently and really add some sparkle and shine to it. So this is a really fun braid. It will be much more semi-solid. I am spinning it all in small strips, but that is because all the colors kind of flow into each other and there's not a lot of color progression to preserve. This one, it looks like she dyed much more mottled, and I'm really, really enjoying all the, actually you can see the beautiful colors in that. That's gorgeous. So that is what the braid will somewhat look like when I get done spinning it, and if I keep on my current course, like I said, I was trying to reset so I could show you finished skeins. So it means I won't show you the fiber before I start with it, but I can show it to you like this. You can still see what it looks like. So I'm hoping that I will be done with this one by the time we next meet. I should do the second half of the singles on Wednesday, and then I'll ply before we meet again on Monday. So that's what I'm working on this week. I also got a surprise braid this week. I had lent my sock blockers to a friend for a few days, and when they returned with a braid of fiber, which was absolutely unnecessary and absolutely lovely, and it is in the Mardi Gras colorways, and it is from a New to Me dyer. So that is what's going to jump on the wheel next week, but I will show you that when we talk again on Monday. So that brings me to the end of this podcast. I hope wherever you are able to get a bit of a respite from the things that are going on around you. Like I said, last week I know was rough for those of us in the US. I know my British friends have been dealing with the first few weeks of Brexit, and so things are just crazy over there. And I am sure that there is plenty of mayhem in the rest of the world as well. So I wish for you a mental respite and peace and joy in your crafting. And I will say, until I see you next time, happy crafting, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.